I'll repeat. So today's objectives for our discussion would be a quick review of what we had discussed yesterday, words about QRS nomenclature, a concept of temporal association, how we use the 12-lead ECG to determine specific activities, some words about the leads and the electrodes, which is important to understand the orientation of the heart, common lead modifications that we use, and we'll go for the assessment questions. Okay, so very quickly, so this is what is there. So yesterday we saw any positive activity that is coming towards the lead will show a positive deflection, and anything away from the lead is going to show a negative deflection. So with this, next question is, the P wave represents atrial depolarization, QRS represents ventricular depolarization, the T wave represents ventricular repolarization, U wave represents papillary muscle repolarization. Okay, so here there was one more concept we discussed yesterday called as the concept of TAA wave or the atrial repolarization wave. So the atrial repolarization wave occurs during the QRS complex. So in case the QRS, the actual QRS that is generated is going to be a little lesser because there is going to be the negative wave that is going to pull the QRS. So in case there is exact opposite, in the sense, let's say the wave P wave is in this direction, so that time the atrial repolarization wave will be in this direction. And this is the same time during which the QRS complex is going to originate. So these two will summate up and you may get a false elevation in the baseline. Okay, so you get a false ST elevation. Okay, so this is one thing yesterday we had discussed. Okay, it is given a particular name. I don't think that name is relevant for us. And we saw why the P wave is positive. So if we take a horizontal section, this is the anterior surface of the heart. This is the anterior, this is the posterior. So I'm seeing it from the top. So if I am going to stand in front here, so let's say I'm going to stand here. So if I'm standing here, the first part is going to be the atrial activation because the RA is the first to get activated here. So you can see here, the RA is the first to get activated. So once it gets activated, it comes in this direction. Followed by that, there is left atrial depolarization in which the lead is going to go away. The electrical activity is going to go away. So from here, if I see, it seems that initially it is going to come towards me and then it is going to go away from me. So the first part will be a positive deflection followed by a negative deflection. So this is the normal P wave in most of the ECGs. So V1 to V3. So V1 to V3, this is what you're going to see, which is a normal. This is completely normal. Don't think this is abnormal and call something else. Okay, this is abnormal. This is absolutely normal. This is what we were told you. So the first part is the RA, second part is the LA. So this is the same thing, a biphasic wave. So coming to the QRS complex, okay. So the first part is going to be the septal activation, and then the next part will be the activation of the ventricle, main ventricle, and then the impulse goes posteriorly like this to activate the basal part of the heart. So that time you get the S wave. Okay, so this much is clear. I'm sure we know this. So the next thing. So coming to the T wave. So the T wave, although represents repolarization, is going to be positive. Reason being the direction of repolarization. So the depolarization is going to happen from the endocardium to the epicardium. But the repolarization is going to happen from the epicardium to the endocardium. Depolarization is the increase in positive charges which is going towards the cell. So I get a positive deflection. But repolarization is negative charges. So negative charges are going away from me. So you can think as all the negativity from you is going away. So that means you become positive. So that is why the T wave is positive. Okay. So with this concept, why that is happening? Because repolarization is a little slower process. It takes some time. Okay. So that is why this is called as repolarization. And that is why the T wave takes some time. So it is a very slow process. So we saw about waves, segments, and intervals. Inscription of any electrical activity of the heart is called as a wave. Segment is a specific complex. Interval is distance between two cardiac events. This is what is classical definition. So to remember, interval usually will contain a wave and an isoelectric segment. So yesterday we saw all this. So you can see the yesterday slides for that. Okay. So coming to Q wave, I forgot to tell when you call a Q wave as pathological Q wave. So this is very important. So when do you call it a pathological Q wave? You call it a pathological Q wave when the depth of the Q wave is 1/4 of the R wave. So if this is the R wave, so the succeeding R wave that comes, if the Q wave is 1/4 or 25%, more than 25% of the R wave, it becomes significant. Or if the duration of the Q wave, in the sense, if this duration is more than one small square, so that time also it can represent a pathological Q wave. There is one more concept that is there called as a cavity potential. Okay, there is something called as a cavity potential. How do we understand this? Okay, I'll come to that the next year. So we'll see how the Q wave represents a cavity potential. So if this is going to be my heart, let's say there is hypertrophy here. Okay, so if this is going to be hypertrophied, so if there is a hypertrophy, it can be in two waves. In the sense, there can be a volume overload or pressure overload. In the sense, if there is more regurgitant lesion, like Varun sir was telling that day, if there is more blood that is entering inside the ventricle somewhat dilates. Whereas the pressure outside that is going to, let's say you block the aorta, let's say a patient has systemic hypertension. So for the blood to go outside, there is increase in afterload. So if there is increase in afterload, it causes concentric hypertrophy. Even if you don't understand this, it's all right. Let's say there is a dilation of this ventricle. So if it is going to be dilated, it is going to come near the chest wall. And let's say I place a lead here. So this chest wall, this lead is going to check the potential. So if this whole thing is my ventricle, and if I'm placing it here, this is going to come a little near. So the net activity that is going to be sensed by my electrode would be, there is some amount of blood that is going to be there inside. Okay, because of the regurgitation only, it is going to come anteriorly. When it is hypertrophying, it is going to come anteriorly. Along with that, there is some amount of blood inside the cavity. Okay, so along with the hypertrophy, there is also the cavity blood that is there. So both of these together is going to be tested by this electrode. So that is why we said this cavity that is going to be represented is also going to be by the Q wave. Okay, so this is one thing to understand. So whenever there is volume overload, you can get a deep Q wave. The reason is because this is going to come anteriorly. Along with that, the ventricle is going to represent the hypertrophy along with the amount of blood inside the heart, which is called as the cavity potential. So that is why Q wave can represent cavity potential. Okay, so you have hypertrophy features with some deep Q waves. You think of either there is a volume overload in the heart. That is what is the inference you draw. Okay, so that is what I told you. So the LV, so you can read it here. So a Q wave represents the LV end diastolic point. So this is to remember. So Q wave, at Q wave, what is electrical activity is? It is the end of diastole. So if it is the end of diastole, there is maximum blood that is going to be in the heart. Agreed? I think everyone agrees. So that means the LV internal diameter is going to be maximum. So the LV cavity along with the mass of blood is going to represent the Q wave. Okay, this is just given a fancy name that is called as Brody's effect. Even if you don't remember Brody's effect, it's completely all right. But you remember that whenever there is volume overload, you can have deep Q waves. That is what is the take-home message. Okay. So we saw how do we measure the T wave. So to measure the end of T wave, you draw a tangent that is intersecting at the peak of from the peak of the T wave, you draw a straight line where it meets the horizontal. So from the horizontal, you draw perpendicular like this. So this point is the onset of the Q wave. This is the end of the T wave. So this whole time duration is called as QT interval. Okay. There is one more concept called as corrected QT. Okay, corrected QT is for the heart rate, the QT is going to be changed because as the heart rate increases, the diastole duration reduces. So all those have to be accounted for when you calculate the QT interval. So that's why the concept of corrected QT interval comes up. When we discuss about arrhythmias, I will cover about what is the relevance of QT interval. Yesterday I mentioned that the increase in QT interval is going to cause an arrhythmia called as Torsades de Pointes. Okay, if I have the ECG, I'll show it to you. Okay, that is about the QT interval. Coming to the QRS complex nomenclature, this is very important. So you will see many in future, you will be seeing some bundle branch blocks that are going to come up. I'll repeat it in the end. Cavity potential, I'll repeat in the end. Okay. So when we see bundle branch blocks, so you get RSR, I'm sure you all have heard RSR pattern, RSR dash pattern. So many patterns come up. So what exactly do they mean? So let's understand that. So the first negative deflection. So first negative, whichever is the first negative wave, whichever is the first negative deflection, we call that as the Q wave. Okay. So you see here, let's take this only as an example. Okay. So the first negative deflection was called as the Q wave. Okay. So following that, any positive deflection, first positive deflection is called as the R wave. First positive is called as the R wave. Okay. So this is the first positive deflection. This is called as R wave. Okay. And then there is no S. So the second negative deflection, or you can take it as the first negative deflection after the positive deflection. That is called as the S wave. Okay, that is the S wave. Okay, the first negative deflection is the Q wave, and then the first positive deflection is the R wave, and then the following negative deflection is called as the S wave. Okay, so here we see there is no R wave, so we call it as a QS complex. This is also very important to remember. Okay, QS complex. Okay, so let's see this example. So the first positive deflection was called as the R wave. Agreed. Following that, the first negative deflection is called as the S wave. So if you get a positive wave, following that any negative wave is called as the S wave. So this is called as the S wave. So following that, you have another positive wave. So that is called as R prime. So all positive deflections are represented by R. If there are more than one, you put a hyphen, a prime mark over it, like this. So this is R prime. Okay, RS R dash. You can call it as RS R dash. Okay, clear? So is the nomenclature clear? What about P wave? Isn't that the first positive wave? No, I'm saying in the QRS complex. This is the nomenclature of the QRS complex, not about the P wave. In the QRS complex, the first positive deflection is the R wave. The first negative deflection is the Q wave. The first negative deflection after the positive deflection is the S wave. Clear? Okay. So let's say there is one more positive wave. Okay. So you got one positive wave. So there is one more positive wave that is coming up. So all positive is called as R. So if there is one more, we call it as R prime or R dash. It's called as R prime. It's represented as R prime or RS R dash. You can call it that way. RS R dash pattern. Okay. This is seen usually in bundle branch blocks. Okay. Clear, no? RS R dash. Many places you get. Some have said Brugada, some have said RBBP. All are correct. Okay. Nomenclature clear. So I'm coming to this one more important concept called as temporal association. That means how to correlate the ECG among all these leads. That is what I want you to remember. Okay. So let's say you are seeing a positive P wave here. Okay. You're seeing a P wave here. Okay. You're seeing a P wave here. Okay. So remember that this ECG, as the paper is going to move like this, the paper is going to move. As the paper is moving in this direction, it goes on getting inscribed the waves. So this whole thing, you see this line here, dotted line, or even if it is not there, what is going to happen is this activities all happen together. Okay, activities happen together, but this activity and this activity don't happen simultaneously. In the sense, the time during which this activity was formed, is different from the time during which this activity was formed. But this and this is similar. Okay. So what is the importance is, let's say in some lead I can't see some P wave. Okay, see. So now I have a doubt. So you see here, there is one deflection, positive deflection here. There is some slurring here. So I don't know what is it. So now how do I confirm it? So look at the corresponding region. So if I draw a straight line like this, it is going to come and meet here. So here I'm very sure that I'm seeing a small P wave here. I'm very sure I'm seeing a small P wave. Here, I don't know there is a P wave or not. It is questionable. Okay, but here definitely I know there is a P wave. Okay, I can see the P wave. So that means that this part here, this also should be a P wave. You see this deflection here, this also should be a P wave. Okay, this is how you generalize. So this concept is called as temporal association. That means there is temporality. So during that activity, there is similar activities that is happening across the lead, across these leads, not in the horizontal direction, in the vertical direction. Okay. This concept is clear, this temporal association. Or you want me to repeat this? This is clear, no? You understood this, no? So when I have a doubt like this, so I compare with the corresponding regions in the same vertical line. Okay, that's all. This is called as temporal association. Very important, especially when you diagnose arrhythmias. It should be very clear. Otherwise, many times you see here, this P wave is the first important thing when you diagnose arrhythmias. If this is missed, and your complete diagnosis will be missed. That is why it is very important. So this is what is shown here. So you draw a temporal line like this. So it indicates a temporality. Okay. So this is called as a vulnerability point. We'll not touch much upon this. Yesterday I just mentioned that this whole thing is going to be the refractory period of the heart. In that there is something called as a relative refractory period. Someone asked me to correlate that. That is why I've just taken this slide. So you see here, this is going to be the refractory period in the heart. So you see, from the 1/3, after the 1/3 of the T wave, is going to be the duration region where there is relative refractory period in the heart. So during this period, if I give a very high impulse, very strong impulse, I can generate an arrhythmia. Okay, I can generate an arrhythmia here. Okay, so this is very important to remember. Okay, so that is why we'll come to something called as cardioversion and defibrillation. Okay, so this is vulnerability point. So it is just that in this region of the heart, during this region or during this time, the heart is vulnerable to generation of arrhythmia. This is why whenever we prolong the QT interval, if the QT interval is very prolonged, this duration is prolonged. The duration of the action potential is prolonged. If the duration of the action potential is going to be prolonged, then there is high chances that the relative refractory period will be high. So that time any arrhythmia can come in. So let's say some depolarization, let's say some premature atrial beat came, and it can activate in the heart and suddenly set it into arrhythmias. That is the importance. Okay. So this is the arrhythmia I was talking about. Can someone tell what is this arrhythmia? Yesterday we discussed it. Yesterday we discussed this. What is this arrhythmia? What is it called? Yes, yes, good. TDP, Torsades. Yes, very good. Torsades. Excellent. Yes, everyone has got it right. This is called as Torsades. So torsade D point. So you can see here the action potential is prolonged. Okay. And one more thing I wanted to show. This is the importance of it. Let's say this was the ECG, and by mistake an electrical activity came in this region. So you see here, there is the T wave. At the peak of the T wave, there is some activity that has started, and then from there is when the activity has rapidly begun like this. Okay, so this phenomenon is called as a R on T phenomenon, because a depolarization will cause an R wave, correct? So the R wave on top of a T wave is just called as R on T. It is just a name, fancy name, R on T phenomenon. This is dangerous because it can cause what you are seeing here, torsades or ventricular fibrillation. So this is the importance of R on T. Okay. So this brings us to an important concept called as cardioversion and defibrillation. That means, so whenever there is an arrhythmia that is, okay. So whenever there is an arrhythmia that is generated, so if I want to terminate the arrhythmia, so I have to time it. If the patient is hemodynamically unstable, then I just give the shock. So, but then I want to terminate the arrhythmia. So you should be careful when you are doing this. for the reason that, so where should you time the arrhythmia on? So where should the arrhythmia be timed? Should not be timed on the T wave. So you should not give a shock when the heart is in this phase. Okay, because it causes something called as R on T. It is nothing but what I told you. The heart is in the relative refractory period here. So when the heart is in the relative refractory period here, if I give a strong cardiac impulse here, that means the heart is easy to generate an arrhythmia. It is a very suitable ground for it to be unstable. So one shot you give some strong impulse and it just starts vibrating like this. So this is called as R on T phenomenon. Clear what is R on T? You understood what is R on T? Even if you don't remember, it's all right. Okay. It is just that during this phase of the cardiac cycle, the heart is susceptible to stronger impulses, which can progress into arrhythmias like this. If this point is taken home, it is clear. So I don't want to give any shock during this point. That's all. If that is clear, yeah. If that is clear, yeah. It's simple. Someone asked me to repeat it. I'll repeat it. Even if you don't remember, it's okay. When we discuss arrhythmia, we'll come back to it. So during this phase of the cardiac cycle, where the T wave is, so during that time, the heart is susceptible to a strong electrical impulse. The reason being, it is in the relative refractory period. So in the relative refractory period, okay, so some parts of the sodium channel is open, some parts of it is closed. So if I give a very strong impulse, I can push open the gate. So you can think it like this. There is one person holding a door. So if there are some 4 to 5 people that are going to push the door will open. So similarly, the sodium channel will open and rapidly influx happens. During that time, it can degenerate into this arrhythmia. Okay. Now it is clear. Should not give it on the top of the T wave. Yeah. Yes. Clear, no? Fine. Good. So if you understood this, so this is what I told you. So synchronize it on the R wave. You should synchronize it to the R wave. So whenever the R wave is there, you should not give it on the T wave. You should give it on the R wave. That's all. Okay. That's all. So this part, let's not come to it now. I just wanted you to remember that you don't give it during the T wave. You give it on the R wave. That's all. Okay. So coming to the leads and electrodes, this is what is the most important. If there are few take-home messages, this part is where I want you guys to concentrate carefully. Because if you understand this, the orientation of the heart will be clear. Why a particular Q wave is seen only in the lateral leads? Why R wave is seen more in the lateral leads? So all that you will get to know. Okay. So we divide these leads into a limb lead and a precordial lead. Limb leads, as the name says, they are placed in the limbs. Precordial leads, they are placed over the precordium. Okay. So we are going to check the electrical activity in 2 planes. Okay. So in this direction. Okay. This is one direction. Okay. One is along the horizontal direction like this. Okay. So I'll switch on my screen so that you guys can see. Okay. So if this is my heart, so one is I'm going to see across this plane. One is going to be across the horizontal plane. So these are the activity I'm going to see in the heart. So if I'm going to see across the horizontal plane, it is going to be called as a precordial lead. It is going to be here, it is called as the limb lead. Okay. If this concept is clear, I'll proceed ahead. Okay. So I'm sure this concept is clear. So if this concept is clear, I'll go ahead. So how do we place these leads? Okay. So this is the nomenclature. So you can think of each of it as an electrical camera. So it has the ability to picture the electrical activity. It can't picture other things, but it can only capture the electrical activity. Okay. So that is about these leads. Yeah. You have understood it. Yeah. Good. Fine. Yeah. So the next thing is, this is how the electrical precordial leads is. So you place V1. So we'll see the position where you should place, because I'm sure most of you will become interns, or in residency there is a shortage of staff nurse, or they become busy and you'll be asked to do this. You'll say, okay, take an ECG. So you should know this because it gives you so much tremendous information of the heart. So imagine you're seeing the entire heart in all the 360 degree. You're almost seeing it in 360 degree. You're not going to place leads posteriorly, routinely, but otherwise almost 360 degree electrical activity you can see with just a sheet of paper. Isn't it just amazing? So this is what is the V1, V2, which is the, so V stands for voltage. V in this lead stands for voltage. Okay. Fine. So V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. So this is going to be along the horizontal plane. Okay. So now this concept I'll just add it here itself. So let's say this is going to be anteriorly. Okay. So this part is going to see more of the septum. Okay. So that's why these are called as septal leads. Okay. And then the next part is V3, V4. They are called as anterior leads. So here they are called as, when they're placed here, they're going to see the heart from this side. So this is called as lateral leads. Okay. So now one important concept is, you guys only tell me. So the first wave in the QRS complex is which wave? Which is the first wave that is going to be generated? Which is the first wave that is generated? Q wave. Okay. So the Q wave happens because of right to left activation or left to right activation. Right to left activation or left to right activation? Yes, yes, left to right. Correct. Yes, everyone has got it. Subtle activation, left to right. Very important. Okay. So since you have got this concept, correct? So imagine this, we'll take two leads, we'll take V1 and V6. Okay. So the first wave that is coming is the Q wave. Agreed? So this is the first wave that is formed. So if that is formed, so you tell me, Q wave will be seen in which lead? Q wave is going to be seen in which lead? Yeah, someone asked me left to right activation. Left to right activation is nothing. It's just that it is found that when the septum is going to be activated, from the left side to right side, the septum is going to be activated. So let's say the current comes like this and goes like this. This is how the septum is going to be activated. Following that, the impulse comes like this and activates it like this, and then impulse moves backward. This is what is the activation of the ventricle. So if this is the activation front, so you tell me Q wave is, I'm taking only two leads here. I'm taking only V1 and V6. Okay. So you're going to tell me in which lead I'm going to see the Q wave and which lead I'm going to see the R wave. Okay. You tell me. So V6 will show negative or positive. We'll take V6. Okay. So now as the impulse is going from here to here, okay. So you tell me negative will be in V6 or positive in V6. I have mixed options. No, I want, okay, wait, everyone is answering. One second. So you tell me V6, only about V6 now. The first deflection, only this deflection I want. Is going to be positive or negative? Yeah. Someone says positive, okay. Okay, negative. Yes, everyone agrees. Okay, it is negative. Correct. This is going to be negative. Reason is the electrical impulse is going away from this lead. Anything going away is going to be positive. Okay, because it is a depolarization. So depolarization, it's like you're getting drained out of energy. So you feel low. So this is negative. Okay. So exactly opposite is here. So here and here, V1 and V2, what is going to happen? It's going to be positive or negative, V1 and V2. Yes. Good. Very good. Yes, good. So it is going to be positive, correct. So it is going to be positive. Okay, very good. So it is going to be positive. Okay, so that makes this a small R wave. Okay, so there is going to be a R wave. Okay, then what is going to be happening? So then what is going to happen is, so next what is happening? If V1 and V2 are positive, it had to be a Q wave. Like you told, A is for septal. Yes. Okay, yeah. Fine. So then the next thing that is going to happen is this part. This is the activation front. So this is going to be the net direction. Okay. We all know this. We have seen this yesterday. So now you tell me which wave is going to be positive and where it is going to be negative. If this is the next direction. If this is the next direction of the art, so which wave is going to be, in which lead the deflection will be positive and which lead it will be negative. Yeah. I considered V1 to V1 and V6 because I wanted you to understand this concept. I'm coming to another important concept. That is why I want you to understand this. That's all. So V5 and V6 everyone says is positive. What about V1 and V2 then? Very good. Everyone is correct. V1, V5, V6 is positive. Absolutely correct. What about V1 and V2? Now it is going to be negative, negative, negative in V1 and V2. Negative S wave. Yes. Good, good, good. V1, V2, negative, negative, negative. Very good, very good. Okay. Everyone has answered correctly. So this brings us to one more concept. Okay. So we saw this, correct? So now, can I say that as I'm going from V1 to V6, my R wave is going to increase, and as I go from V1 to V6, my S wave is going to reduce? Can I say that? Can I say this? You understood this? As I'm going from V1 to V6, my R wave is going to increase. You're able to picture that? Yes. And as I'm going from V1 to V6, my S wave is reducing. You're agreeing with this? Yes. So this concept is called as R wave progression. Very important concept. So the R wave is going to increase gradually as you go from V1 to V6. And the S wave is going to gradually reduce. So if this concept is clear, so okay. So this is clear. I hope everyone is clear with this concept. Why is S wave reducing? The R wave is increasing, no? The electrical activity is, first we saw it here. So I'll take, that's why I took only V1 and V6. I'll generate the waves, okay? So this was step 1. So in step 1, the electrical activity is in this direction. So here it should be a positive wave. Here it should be a negative wave. Septum is very thin, so I get a small deflection. Then majority of the ventricle is going to get activated. It is in this direction. So that means from this point, it is seeming that the electrical impulse is traveling a long distance and there is more mass here. So that means this creates a very strong positive deflection. If it's going to create a strong positive deflection, it should create correspondingly a strong negative deflection. Okay. And then as the heart is going in this direction, so it will come back to the baseline. Sometimes it may inscribe a wave like this. But the only problem is this part here and this part here, as I am going here. So it is not very well picked up by the precordial leads. So it is like both are going a little away. Okay, so you can get some small S wave here because it is going a little away from you. And here also it is going a little away. So it can remain like this only, or it may be this S wave may be a part of this itself. Okay. So this concept is there. So we created these two waves. So that means you saw here, there is an R wave that is here, and here there is a very good S wave here. Okay. So as I'm going like this, my R wave is going to increase because I'm reaching near and near. They are near the point of highest maximum impulse, and so that is why the S wave also will gradually reduce. Okay. Because there is no negative deflection. Understood this concept? S wave you didn't understand. S wave where Q in V1 is not there. There is no Q wave because the first activity is R wave. So you don't get a Q wave in V1. Understood, no? Mike. Yeah. You understood why there is no Q wave in V1? Normally you understood, no? Why there is no Q wave? It is because you didn't understand why there is no Q wave. Okay. I'll explain it again. Does the S wave in V1 correspond to the depolarization spreading towards the apex? Yes. Yes. V1 and V2, you can take it similarly. Yes. The S wave in V1 corresponds to the depolarization spreading towards the apex. Someone will ask. So I say yes. Okay. So very quickly we'll see this. So this is very important to understand. Okay. So this is the activation front. This is clear. V1 is far from the septum. Yes. V1 is near the septum. Okay. This part was clear. This part here. This is the activation of the Q wave. So this is the septal activation. So you understood this is the direction, correct? So if this is going to be the direction, it is going to be the positive charge here. So positive charge is coming towards this lead. That means it is going to create a positive deflection, correct? At the same corresponding time in V6, I am going to get a negative deflection. Okay. Yeah, S wave part of basal depolarization. Yes. Not in every lead. Okay. S wave you should not generalize. Okay, that is why I am explaining this again. Listen carefully. Okay, so this is the wave that is being formed. Okay, the second part is the activation in this direction. Okay, so if this is the direction of activation, so that means the electrical activity is going away from these leads, correct? That means I'm going to get a negative deflection and I'm going to get a positive deflection. Okay, so in V1 there will be R wave, S wave and R dash wave. Yeah, R dash wave may be there, may not be there. Okay, because the left side activity is very strong, so it may not inscribe such a strong wave there. Okay, yeah. So this is, you understood this. Yeah, R prime only in pathologic, not really. It can be seen physiologically also. Okay, so you understood this. It can be seen physiologically also, Mike. Okay, so you understood this. So you formed an R wave and an S wave. So here you got a Q wave and an R wave. Okay, you understood this. Someone has asked why there is no Q wave in V1. Because the corresponding counterpart of Q is the R here. Because there is no reason why a Q should be formed. Understood? Yeah. So this is what I meant. As I'm going like this, the R wave is going to increase. And the S wave is going to reduce. Okay. We'll see that with an ECG also. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Good. If you understood this, so these leads, so these are the cameras. Okay, you see my video now. Let's see if I can see. Yeah. So this is my heart. Okay, if this is my heart, okay, so I have some cameras that are going to see the heart from down. Okay, so if it is going to be from down, as the name will say, it is called as inferior leads. Okay, this is called as inferior lead. Okay, if I'm taking this as my apex, this is going to be an inferior lead. Okay, so if this is my apex, okay, if this is going to be my apex, this is going to be a lateral lead. This is going to be from one side, it is going to see. Okay, so this is called as a lateral lead. It is lateral to it, so it's called as a lateral lead. Okay, and then there is inferior lead. Okay, and then there is something called as lead AVR. That means it is going to see here. Somewhere extremely it is seeing here. So that means it is going to be always negative because the electrical activity is going to be always in this direction. That means if the lead is here somewhere where my hands are, so all the leads, all the activity is going to be in this direction. That means this entire lead in AVR should be negative. Okay, this is one more concept to remember. Always lead AVR should be negative. Okay, if this concept is clear, we will proceed. So you understood this concept? You understood this concept? You saw my video? Redmi, someone was there. Yeah. You understood that? No? Yeah, fine. So, as the name suggests, lead 2, 3 and AVF are called as inferior leads. Lead 2, 3 and AVF is called as inferior lead. 1 and AVL is called as lateral lead along with V5, V6. We saw V5, V6 was the lateral side of the heart. So, 1 AVL, V5, V6 is called as lateral leads. Lead AVR is the right sided. Some say it is forgotten lead, but it has a lot of significance. We will come to it some other time. Okay. Okay. Yeah. V1, V2 represent septal activation, then Q must be there in V1. No. V1, V2 don't represent septal activation. It is a septal lead. See, V1, V2 is not a septal activation. V1, V2 is present in the interventricular septum. Okay. So that means the direction is going to come towards the septum. If it is going to come towards the septum, it is going to be positive. Okay. Understood? Yeah. Want me to repeat this leads? Yeah, I'll repeat it. Fine. So these leads are called as inferior leads because they are seeing the heart. So imagine this is the heart. So this is in the sides. So this is called as a lateral lead. These three are called as inferior leads, and this is called as the right-sided lead. Or you can just call it as lead AVR. It is an extreme lead there. Okay. And V1, V2, we know is the septal lead. V3, V4 anterior. Again here you see V5, V6, AVL, V1. AVL and 1 with V5, V6 is called as lateral leads. Okay. Understood? What is the need for lateral limb leads when there are lateral chest leads? Okay. There is something called as a high lateral wall MI, wherein you can see ST elevations only in 1 and AVL. V5, V6 will be absolutely normal. Okay, because I'm going to see only in a horizontal plane. Someone has said this. Chest lead is a different cross section than a limb lead. Very good. I'm seeing only in the horizontal plane, V5, V6. But if it is in the frontal plane, I may not pick it up. That is why. Okay, we'll come to high lateral wall MI and all when we discuss MI. Okay. So following that, so this is what exactly is going to happen. So whenever we are going to measure the potential difference between two parts is when a deflection is going to come. So we remember no Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. So current flowing, there is resistance and there is potential difference. Okay. So left arm and right arm is represented by lead 1. Left leg and right arm is by the lead 2. And left arm and left leg is by the lead 3. This is a part of formation of what we call as an Einthoven's triangle. So LA, left leg, right arm. What happened to the right leg? It had the neutral electrode, so it has no deflections. Okay, so this is going to be the direction in which it is going to be there. So this will be in this direction. These two are going to see in this direction. Okay, remember this always. Okay, this is very important. So this brings us to one concept. Okay, wherein 1 and lead 3 together will be equal to lead 2. This is Einthoven's law. If you don't remember also, it's okay. 1 plus 3 is equal to 2. That is Einthoven's law. Okay. So now there is AVR, AVL, AVF. So what does A stands for? Anyone? What does this A stand for? What about right side of the heart? We can't really see the right side of the heart. That is why we have a modification called as right-sided leads. Okay. Heart is on the left side, no? So that is why we don't use the right side. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Augmented leads. So this was given by Goldberger in 1950. So this is called as augmented leads. So what is getting augmented? You see beautifully this is there. So here instead of taking only right arm and left arm, he did a very smart thing. What he said was, I'll take the potential difference between left arm and left leg. So this become a summated electrode. So in the sense, so I took a right arm and I'm measuring the potential difference across left arm and left leg together. So similarly, if I want the left arm, I take right arm and left leg together as one electrode and left arm as one more electrode. So this will become AVL. So this is called as an exploring electrode, wherein this is the activity I want, which is left arm. So if I want right arm activity, it is called as by augmentation. Yeah, I'll tell you what is augmentation. Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll come to that. And this is the left arm and right arm and left arm, with left leg being the exploring electrode. So see, if I'm taking only single electrode, so if I take only these two, so the potential difference that I will generate is less. So that is why what he did was he took both together. So that created an augmentation. So two electrodes I'm taking together. So it gets augmented. The electrical activity gets augmented. That is why it's called as augmented electrode. So AVL plus AVF is equal to minus AVR. Okay. This also is very important. You can use lead misplacements with this. Okay. We'll see how and now. Right. This is the placement of the precordial leads. So I told you, no. So very simple to place these leads. So left arm will have a color, right arm will have a color, left leg will have a color. Usually right leg will be black. Okay. So right arm, left arm, left leg you connect. So all this will be generated. So for the V1 to V6, this is important. So V1 is placed where you see here, this is the fourth intercostal space. So how to identify intercostal spaces? You come from the suprasternal notch. As you come from the suprasternal notch, you reach the Mann-Brahms turning. So as you reach the Mann-Brahms turning, you can go laterally. Okay. So as you go laterally, you hit what rib? You hit the second rib. So just the space below it is called as the second intercostal space. Okay. The second intercostal space. Okay. Yeah, angle of Louis. Very good. Angle of Louis. Yes. So here you go and then come down. So in the fourth intercostal space, you place V1. Exactly in the fourth intercostal space on the left, you place V2. The next thing you're going to place is V4. So you place it in the mid-clavicular line in the fifth intercostal space. In between V2 and V4, you place V3. Next you ought to place is V6, the anterior axis, the mid-axillary line. So V5 will be placed in the anterior axillary line between V4 and V6. Okay, clear? Where you place the leads? V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. V1, V2 first placed, then place V4, then place V3. Then V6 placed, then V5 is placed. Okay. Okay, fine. So I'll come to this one. Yeah. So can someone tell me what is the diagnosis here? Can someone tell me what is the diagnosis? Someone has raised the hand. I don't know who has raised. Yeah. Yeah. You can attempt. You can attempt this. Think what is happening. I told you. I gave you a clue. No. Lead AVR should be completely negative. So here it is. Yes. Okay. So someone says lead reversal. Someone says dextrocardia. Okay. Someone has said very well. AVR is positive. Dextrocardia or reversal of leads. Very good. Very good. Very good. Any other answers? Let's see. Everyone says it is misplaced leads. Okay. So I've got only misplaced leads. Majority have said misplaced leads. So one Sarah has said dextrocardia. Few have said dextrocardia also. So which is correct? Okay. So the first thing when you see is you want to make sure that the ECG you're interpreting is going to be correct. Okay. So very common it is. This lead reversal is very common. So you ask someone to take you ask someone in the ward, sister, please take the ECG. What would have happened is this would have got swabbed and you will say what happened to this patient. So that is why it is important to know. Okay. So the first thing you look at is standardization. If the standardization is gone, ask them to get a proper ECG. The second thing is you look at AVR. That's how you start interpreting the ECG. The second thing you look at is lead AVR. So if the AVR is completely positive, two differentials you have. You have either it is dextrocardia or you have a limb bleed reversal. Okay, dextrocardia or limb bleed reversal. Okay, so I'll just draw to make you understand what is happening. So if this is going to be my heart, this is dextrocardia, correct? This is dextrocardia. But normally my leads are placed in this direction. V1 to V6 is going to be like this. Okay, so here the R wave should increase from V1 to V6, correct? Okay, this is a normal person. So in dextrocardia, what do you expect the R wave progression to be? How to find out if AVR is positive? Yeah, AVR is positive. How to find is, I told you, no, all leads will be negative. Reason being, if this is AVR, this is going to be the direction of P wave. This is going to be the direction of QRS. So P wave is going to be negative, QRS is going to be negative, T wave plus or minus. So it should be always negative. So if the P wave is positive, that means there is something wrong. That is the first thing to see. Okay. So now you tell me. So I told you, I gave you one scenario, no? So two scenarios. Okay. So even the Q wave. Q wave will be positive or equiphasic. Q wave you should not get. Should not get Q wave in lead AVR. You won't get a Q wave normally. So this is going to be the direction. This is dextrocardia. This is going to be in normal person. So V1 to V6. Okay. So I have not done anything to V1 to V6. So you tell me now R wave progression in which it is absent, which it is present. What do you want me to repeat? Lead AVR you mean? You want me to repeat lead AVR? as we go from V1 to V6, the R wave should increase. Yeah, you want me to repeat lead AVR? Yeah, someone asked me to repeat lead AVR. So imagine this. Okay, I'll start my video so that you guys can understand. I don't know if I'm able to see myself. Yeah, fine. So this is my heart. Okay, so imagine this is my heart. So this is going to be my lead AVR. Okay, so now if the P wave is going to be in this direction, the P wave I'm sure is is in this direction. The QRS complex is also going to be in this direction. Okay, so that means this lead that is going to be here, the first deflection of the P wave that is going to be downwards. That means it is saying okay, so the P wave is going away from me, so it creates a negative wave. The second wave that is going to be generated is the QRS. So let's say the whole QRS is in this direction. That means the next wave is also going to be negative because it is going to be away from it. Okay, so that is why AVR P wave will be negative and the QRS will also be negative. Clear? Clear? I hope it's clear. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. I'll come to it. Everyone wants to answer the question. Yeah. So you tell me now. So in which leads R wave progression is normal? R wave progression, okay, is normal in dextrocardia or reversal? Reversal or dextrocardia? R wave progression completely normal. Completely normal. Is seen in reversal or dextrocardia? Reversal. Yes. You all understood why it is normal, no? So if you have understood, I'm very happy. So this is what is happening, correct? So now we'll see the same thing here, fine? So you see a nice R wave that is there, but then you start seeing the R wave is reducing. So as you go from V1 to V6, the R wave is reducing. So what is this now? Can you tell me what is the diagnosis for this? I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of options there. So some said dextrocardia, some said reversal. So now you tell me, this is going to be lead reversal or dextrocardia? The ECG that I've given to you. Yeah. Dextro. Yeah, okay. Anyone saying lead reversal? Yeah, okay. I have someone saying me lead reversal. I have my friend there. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah. So for those, yeah, I'll go with this. So this is the concept of R wave progression. That means I'll show that here. So this you will understand now. So as I'm going from V1 to V6, so don't take this, take only this. So you see here, as I'm going from V1 to V6, the R wave is increasing in amplitude, which is normal, and the S wave is reducing in amplitude, which is normal. Correct? So this is absolutely normal phenomenon. Okay. So now let's say here what is happening. Here what is happening? Why R wave is normal in lead reversal? Yeah. In lead reversal is happening only in the limb leads. V1 to V6 is completely normal. So the chest leads are completely normal. So you get a normal R wave progression. R wave progression is seen in the limb leads, in the chest leads. Okay, VOV, Y55L. Yeah, fine. Clear? Why not lead reversal? Yeah, someone asked me why not lead reversal. You tell me why not lead reversal. So that is why I told you this concept. So what happens to the R wave progression? So imagine this is my heart in dextrocardia. Okay. So my leads that are going to place. Okay, so this is the chest sternum. So this is going to be the direction roughly. Okay. So my leads are going to be in this direction, V1 to V6. Okay. But then the electrical activity is going to be exactly opposite. It is going to be in this direction. So maximum I'm going to get in V1. And I don't have any lead here. So to measure any electrical activity. So this will be less. Okay. Yes. As we go, yeah, correct. Someone has answered very beautiful. Amrut, very good explanation. As we go from V1 to V6, the R wave increases and S wave decreases. But in this case, it's not. It is opposite of that. That's why dextrocardia. So here, the R wave progression is bad. I don't see any R waves here. So that means there is dextrocardia. Okay. Now is it clear? I hope it is clear. Yeah, fine. I'll proceed. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay, this is what I meant by R wave progression. The definition of R wave progression I have shown you here. The R wave height in V3 less than 3 millimeter. That is the definition. Okay, that is the strict definition. These are the causes. Okay, that we'll see it later. Old MI, WPW, all that. So this is what I want you to remember. Okay. What difference we see in lead reversal? No much difference. What is lead reversal? Oh, okay, fine. So this is what you didn't get. Fine. What I meant by lead reversal is the left arm and the right arm is swapped. Okay. What I meant is the left arm, right arm is swapped. I'm really sorry. I didn't explain this. So the left arm, right arm is swapped. So that means what happens to the interverse triangle? We'll see this here. So this is going to become positive and this is going to become negative. Okay. So the first activity is going to be in this direction normally. Okay. But that is going to be seen in the opposite direction because this is a negative wave now. Okay. So whatever is happening will be exactly opposite. Okay. You understood now? When I have a left arm, right arm reversal, so I will get something called as a technical dextrocardia. It is just a misnomer. Yeah. No much different. Now you understood, Arjun? Yeah. I'm sorry. Now you guys understood? Yeah, you got it. No, fine. Yeah, fine. We'll move ahead. Okay. So same like this, you can have other lead reversals also. Fine. So this is what you remember. So whenever whenever the R wave is positive in lead AVR, either technical dextrocardia or differential is dextrocardia. So in dextrocardia, the R wave progression is reversed. In technical dextrocardia, it is normal. Okay, so that's all. Fine. So there is one more way you identify lead reversals also. This is called as pseudo asystole pattern. Asystole means there is no activity in the heart. Okay, asystole. Systole is absent. Asystole. Okay. So you see all the other leads. You see all the other leads are having some activity, but this lead has no activity. So that means it does not mean that the heart has stopped because the other parts here are beating. That means there is some lead reversal that is happening. Okay. So whenever you have asystole patterns, so in the pseudo asystole patterns, the lower leg leads are reversed. That is the thing you should remember. We'll not go into why each thing is formed. Okay. You can maybe read it up. If you type, you will get to understand this. Okay. Fine. Yeah. You remember that pseudo asystole pattern is going to have is going to localize it to the limb lead reversal. So whenever you are seeing like this flat lines with some nice this one like this, so think that there is a lead reversal affecting the lower limb. So lower limb lead reversal has happened. That is all is the take home message. Fine. So this is what I want you to. This is the gist of everything. So reverse is the mnemonic to identify all these. So this I just took it from one of my mentors. He was who taught me the basics of ECG and all. Dr. Padmanabh Kamath. He's the HOD of cardiology in KMC Bangalore. So you see this. These are the abnormal findings you see first. So the R wave is positive in AVR. So if it is there, reversal of left arm, right arm. Okay. And then you see extreme axis deviation. We'll come to axis. For now, we'll keep it for later. Okay. And then very low isolated complexes in a limb lead. That is flat lead. What I told you, pseudo asystole pattern. So you think of a leg reversal. Okay. And then I told you this, that the lead 2 should be maximum. Lead 1 plus lead 3 should be equal to lead 2. If that is also not satisfied, that means there is a reversal somewhere. Okay, that is one more point. Okay, and there is abnormal progression of the R wave in the precordial leads. That also you should think. So you suspect dextrocardia when there is negative P waves in lead 1. Okay, so all these you can read it up later. You can just revise it at the end of the day. Pseudo asystole can be seen in hypokalemia also. Asystole itself will happen when patient is having hypokalemia. Pseudo P pulmonale is what I know. I don't know if pseudo asystole can be seen in hypokalemia. I'll just have to read it up. As far as I remember, I have not seen. I'll just check it up and let you know tomorrow. As far as I remember, it's not there. Okay. So until now, everything is clear. Until now, we have understood whatever I've told. until now you have understood whatever I've told. We saw some basics. We saw lead placement, everything we saw. Okay. So now there is something called as special leads. So some modifications that are there. Okay. Modifications that are there. Okay. So these are the right-sided leads. You are seeing, no, the name is written V1R, V2R, V3R, V4R. Okay. So exactly how you place the left-sided leads, exactly how you place left-sided leads, place it in the same intercostal space on the right side. Okay. Importance is you look at V4R or these right-sided leads to diagnose a right ventricular myocardial infarction. Whenever you have an RVMI, it's called as right ventricular myocardial infarction. So that time you can use these leads. Okay. That is the importance of right-sided leads. Okay. Can someone tell me what is this? I don't expect you to tell, but then in case you can tell. If at all someone says, can RV be positive in AVR and dextrocardia? Yes, exactly. RV will be positive in dextrocardia. Why we put it in the right side? We want to see the right sided activity. There can be some subtle, because RV is most anterior. That time sometimes we may not pick it up. That's why. Okay. So then this is the so you see this is the right arm. You can modify the leads here. Okay, you can modify the leads. Okay, so the right arm here is placed in the manubrium sterni. The left arm is placed in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So fifth or sixth intercostal space on the right, you place this, and you place this in the lower left costal margin, lower right costal margin. Okay, so this forms one triangle like this. Okay, so this is called as a Lewis lead. Okay, this is called as a Lewis lead. Lewis lead is used to identify some atrial arrhythmias. Okay, many times the heart rate is fast. Sometimes you may not pick up P wave. So this Lewis lead can help that time. Okay, that is the Lewis lead. Okay. Then there is one more lead. RL is yes, correct. Okay. Then there is this lead called as F. F stands for Fontaine. Okay. Even if you don't remember these leads, is completely okay. But it is just a name. It is just a name. Just I wanted to remember that there are some lead modifications, so that you can use it when you suspect something, you start thinking of this. This also is similar. RA is placed here, LA is placed here, LL is placed here. Okay, fine. So this forms one more equilateral triangle here. Okay, so this is seen when we want to diagnose a condition called as arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, ARVC or VD. Arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy or dysplasia. Arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. Can someone tell what is the wave that is seen? He'll ask you in the entrance, that's all. And it's not that rare also, it's common only. If you only suspect, only then you will diagnose this, otherwise it's not there, it's not possible. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other leads you want? Any other wave you want to tell? Yeah. So some have told it is called as epsilon wave. Yes, correct. This is called as an epsilon wave. Okay. It appears like an epsilon, E like this. So it is called as an epsilon wave. Okay. So epsilon waves are seen in arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. Okay. Okay. So for that you can use this lead modification called as Fontaine's modification. I'll just tell you two syndromes along with arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy. Okay. So if there is an arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy, it can be affecting the RV or it can affect the LV. So if this affecting the RV, you call it as arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. If it is going to affect the LV, you call it as, anyone can tell? Anyone can tell? It is called as Carvajal syndrome. Okay, Carvajal, C-A-R-V-A-J-A-L, Carvajal syndrome. Okay, it's called as Carvajal syndrome in LV. The RV. So usually what will happen is there is one more syndrome here. If there is fibrofatty infiltration of the tissue that is seen in the cardiac MRI with woolly hair is seen, woolly hair. Okay, woolly hair with woolly hair is seen along with, anyone picked up this syndrome already? Woolly hair with palmoplantar hyperkeratosis. Palmoplantar hyperkeratosis. Yes, someone has said Naxos. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Palms and feet will have hyperkeratosis. That is called as Naxos syndrome. Okay. Naxos syndrome. Correct. Whenever there is a palmoplantar hyperkeratosis with woolly hair with cardiomyopathy, it's called as Naxos. Okay. And whenever there is same thing affecting the LV, it's just called as Carvajal. It is just a nomenclature. Treatment is a little complex. We'll not go into that. Okay. So quickly, I think we are done with whatever I had to tell. If any questions. Syndrome name, one is called as Naxos, one is called as Carvajal. I'll type it here. Naxos, the RV. Carvajal is seen in the LV. Carvajal is seen in the LV. Yeah, fine. Okay, yeah. The end of class, please tell summary. Yes, I'll tell you the summary. Fine. So yeah, answer. Tombstone pattern is seen in MI. Yeah, QA represents the end ventricular diastole, correct. End ventricular diastole. Because after QA, we are going to generate an R wave. If you are generating an R wave, it is going to activate the ventricle. That means there should be ventricular contraction following that. That means at the end of the Q wave, I should have maximum amount of blood in my ventricle. Okay, that is the logic. Only then you can pump it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. Tell me these observations. We'll see. Tell me observations. Tell me your observations. We'll see. Always start with the whatever concepts I've told you. First, the technical. Yeah. Always you should see the technical problem first. Otherwise, you are gone. All your interpretation will be gone. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Let's see others. Are you guys there? You understood what I've told? Normal is 10. Yeah. Good. Enlarged PV, someone says, okay. Amplitude is 20. Yeah, okay. Fine. Yeah, okay. I think most of you have got it. See, that's why I always start with the technical things. So first to look at standardization. So you see here, this 20 millimeters 1 millivolt, which is not what we want, because it will create a very false high amplitudes. That's why someone told, see, this P wave looks peaked. So there is peak P wave. So actually it is just because of the standardization. All this error is coming. Okay. Because if this much is the wave, then it is going to peak it up. Okay, fine. This you got? Okay, yeah. This I don't know if you may get it. Yeah. Let's see. So we have done some modification and some waves we started seeing. Okay. So you see, this is the first ECG, and this was the second ECG. Okay. This was the first ECG. This was the second ECG. Okay. So anything you are able to pick up? You focus only on, let's say we'll focus only on lead 2. Focus only on lead 2. See this properly first. I wanted to focus only on lead 2. Okay. I wanted to focus only on lead 2. Assuming this is a good standardization. Standardization is good actually. You can see it here. Standardization is good. Okay. So look at lead 2. Only look at lead 2. Okay. I wanted to look at lead 2. Okay. And look at lead 2 now. Okay. Look at lead 2 that time. Look at lead 2 now. Any changes? Anything you are able to see? Any wave, anything that started coming up, anything you started seeing. If you don't pick it up also, don't feel bad. Yeah, P wave, S wave, yes, okay, fine. T2 had a D winters, so D winters, okay. And T segment elevation, okay. So I have a lot of answers. Okay. So this is a tachycardia, okay. So heart rate is 150, okay. So whenever you have such a high heart rate, there can be some changes in the TST segments. So that is called as tachycardia induced changes, okay. But I wanted you to focus. So whenever I have a tachycardia, I want to get the diagnosis, correct? No? We'll see how we approach tachycardias and all later. But the thing is, see, the first thing whenever I want to see is I want to look for the P waves if I'm able to find them. So you see here, I'm not able to see anything much. I may say, okay, this may be P wave, may not be P wave. Can't say with confidence. Okay. So what I did was I did one electrode modification. What happened? You see, you're starting to see beautiful. Some small P waves are seeing. Excuse me. Yeah. You're starting to see these P waves. Okay. You see these P waves. They were not seen earlier. They're seen now. Okay. So this is the beauty of this. So you started to see some small P waves that are there, that are not there. Now you are seeing. Okay. Now can you tell what is this lead modification? I told you. Yeah. P wave notching. Yes. It's present on the T wave. Yeah. So I told you for some no. P mitral is seen before the QRS. See this P wave is seen. Where is this P wave seen? This P wave is after the QRS. So you don't call it P mitral. P mitral is such a huge P wave. But where is this? This is here. Okay, yeah. Someone has mentioned Shenoy. Dr. Shenoy has mentioned. Yeah. This is Lewis lead. Yeah. If you see here, it is given. So most of the time answers are in front of us. Okay. So this is called as Lewis lead. I told you Lewis lead is for picking up some subtle atrial arrhythmias. So this is what you'll get some P waves. All you can see here. Okay. Fine. Yeah. I think I'm done for today. So any doubts? I'll quickly run through what we saw. Okay, we'll start from the beginning. Today, I'll just tell you in brief only. Okay, so the first thing we saw was about the revision. So why each wave is formed, P, Q, R, S, and T. So once we saw that, so then we saw why the T wave is positive. So we revised that, and then we came to the main focus was on about how to distinguish between dextrocardia and technical dextrocardia or lead reversal. So we saw what are leads, what are electrodes, how are they arranged in the 360-degree manner to represent the heart. And then we saw inferior leads are represented by 2, 3 and AVF, and 1 and AVL represents the lateral leads, and AVR is going to be the right-sided AVR of lead. And then in the precordial leads, we have V1, V2, which is the septal lead, V3, V4 is the anterior lead, V5, V6 is the lateral lead. Okay. After that, we saw how to identify some lead modifications or lead errors. So if I swap the left arm and right arm, I get one false dextrocardia. If I do a similar swapping with using the lower limb leads, that time I can get a pseudo asystole pattern or just a flat line in one of the leads. Okay, that is one way to identify. Then we also saw the reverse mnemonic, how to identify where is the lead reversal. Okay, and then we saw about some lead modifications. One was Lewis lead, one was right-sided lead to identify right-sided infarction, RVMI. Then the third was we saw Fontaine lead modification to diagnose arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. And then we ended that whole thing, and then we saw some examples. Okay.